Hello and welcome back to North America's #1 premier SpongeBob rewatch podcast. I'm your host, Quincluded, and I'm a liar. I'm not doing that. I'm going to talk about anime. I've never seen an episode of SpongeBob in my life. That's a second lie. I've seen, not to brag, I've seen a few episodes of SpongeBob, but I'm going to talk about anime. I know what you're thinking. He's doing it again. When is he going to get another hobby? It's never too late to pick up curling. But I know the last video ended because I could not talk any longer because I um, fucked my voice up good. So instead, I'm just going to tack on the two entries that would have been on the December list, I think, and now we're halfway through February because I'm a depressed, lazy piece of shit that didn't do a video for 2 weeks. But let's ignore that and plow right on into entry number one, or entry point one, however you would denote it. It doesn't matter. The first thing that I watched at the end of December, technically for January, is no, I watched it in January. No, wait. I'm confusing myself. I watched it at the end of December and I didn't include it in the December video because of reasons, because of my voice. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about today is Ranma 1 Half 2024 Season 2. It's a remake of an old anime called Ranma 1 Half, or Ranma Half. I don't actually know how you say it. They don't say that in the show, though the main character's name is Ranma. It's by the author, mangaka Rumiko Takahashi, the same lady she's done so fucking much. She's done Inuyasha, she's done this, she's done Urusei Yatsura, she's doing one now right now called Mao that just got an anime announced like in the last year or so. So, I'm like, I gotta read the manga before the anime comes out. Still haven't done that because I want to read them all. Because a year or two ago I read Inuyasha and it was really good, and then last year I watched Ranma Season 1 and it was really good. I'm like, maybe she just only has bangers. So I've been planning to also watch Urusei Yatsura. I want to read Ranma from the beginning and just read it. If this remake's only going to get if if this remake is only going to get a season a year, it's going to take quite a while to all come out. I think it's like a 400 chapter series. I haven't actually looked again since the last time I went to download some chapters. But I know on the Viz app, she has like at least over 5 things. Because there's Inuyasha, Ranma, Urusei, Mao, another thing called I forget the name. It's a Japanese title, and I'm not gonna fucking pretend I know what it is. But she has at least like those 5, and maybe like 2 or 3 more after that. So like 8-ish. Anyway, Ranma 1 Half, or Ranma Half, is a series about, there's this guy called Ranma. He's a martial artist. Him and his dad go to China to practice martial arts. One day they're at some place where there's a bunch of fucking cursed shit, and they fall into this like cursed pool. So Ranma, if he gets sprayed with cold water, he will transform into a female, and if he gets sprayed with hot water, he will turn back into a man. And then his dad, it's the same deal. Cold water, he turns into a panda bear. Hot water, he turns back into a man. And then as the show has gone on, they've introduced more people. So there's a character called Ryoga, who, when he gets sprayed with water, he turns into a teacup pig, and then hot water back into a man. At the end of season 1, they introduce a character called Shampoo, who is like a love interest for Ranma. And in season 1, she was just a normal lady, and then season 2, she goes to that place in China. She's also from China, so she's just like going home basically. And she ends up in a cursed pool where if she gets sprayed with water or whatever, she turns into a little cat. And then in season 2, they introduce a lore that Ranma is scared of cats because his dad was like, here's martial arts training, where he like traps Ranma in a hatch full of hungry stray cats, and then he's like, he throws raw meat or like sushi or whatever the fuck on Ranma, and he's like, this will make you better at martial arts probably. And it becomes like a plot line, like a power boost to Ranma, where if he becomes scared enough of a cat, he will kind of like brown out and go cat boy mode and like take on the like nature of a cat and use that in his fighting style whenever that comes up. But the plot is that they come back to Japan because his dad told the female lead of Kanetendo's dad that they would like start banging, they would hook up, they would get married. And so Ranma starts going to school there, and I think a lot of people like will show up and be like, "Oh, Akane, you should be with me," and then like do like, "So I challenge you, Ranma, and if you lose this duel of sorts, I get to bang her," and then hijinks ensue. And then in season one, I don't remember them really liking each other all that much, although as the show has gone on, they like each other way more, and it's very clear that they are like kind of in love with each other, but they don't really say it out loud, except for when they like have feelings of jealousy towards one another. I will say that pre them like solidifying their feelings like this, Ranma is kind of gay as shit, because at the end of season one, that shampoo girl shows up and she's like, "Ranma, I will suck your dick right now. No strings attached. Like, let's just like you be with me, fuck Akane." And he's like, "Oh, I can't do that. I need to be with Akane even though I don't want to be." It's like, all right, brother. What are we doing? We need to get our priorities straight here. But I guess I should say my score. I always forget to just give my score right away. My score for this one was 9 out of 10. I really fucking really liked this. I think I gave season 1 8, so I really liked that one too. But this one was like a step ahead, where they like really. I thought almost every episode was like just so much fucking fun. I did one thing I did like is that in season 1 it felt like Ranma getting cold water splashed onto him and turning into a woman was more of a like gag to be like, remember that this can happen, and they would very quickly throw hot water on him and then he would turn back into a dude. For the first clump of episodes of season 2, Granny shows up and is like, "You're double cursed, and now you have to be a girl, because if you touch hot water, even if it's just like kind of warm, it feels like it's like boiling, scalding hot, and it'll fuck you up good." So like the first few episodes, it's girl Ranma. I like seeing girl Ranma. She's voiced by Susie Young, who's one of my favorite modern day voice actresses to see and stuff. So it's very cool to like give her some like the limelight. I think my favorite episode this season was probably, there's an episode where I think this is still while Ranma has to be staying as a lady, and Shampoo and Akane Tendo are involved, where there's this big like Shampoo stays with her granny, the granny who cursed Ranma, and they like run a restaurant, I think, and they're like, "Oh, we're doing this like big event where like you are a lady and you bring a bowl of soup / ramen to like a guy who's like on the other side of town, and if you give, I forget exactly because now it's fucking been 2 months, but it was like, oh, you win the competition and like something good happens. You're a winner." So Ranma is in it, Shampoo's in it, Akane Tendo's in it. You'd think Shampoo wouldn't be in it because it's for her very own restaurant. Seems like maybe there's some preconceived biases, but it was so much fun because it's a race of like them like using their martial arts skills to like jump across buildings and shit, and like get the one up on the other, while they like try to deliver the one guy some soup, some ramen. I thought that was a whole lot of fun. I think that episode is like a great like distillation of what the whole show is about. And then that's contrasted by maybe the worst episode of the season, where a martial arts master who's the martial arts master to the two fathers of Ranma and Akane, and he's this like little, you can kind of like, when you read multiple series by the same author, you can see how they like keep the same like design elements of characters in mind. So like in Inuyasha, there's this character that's a little flea demon, and the flea demon looks exactly like this fucking dude in Ranma. So I was like, it's Myoga, even though it's a different character. Now he's like the martial arts master of the two dads, and they're like, you could teach Ranma a whole lot, but he also does the perverted old man trope, but like way like to the like the whole episode is just him like trying to molest Ranma and like shoving his face in her tits and being like, "Oh yeah, this is the life. I'll teach you martial arts if you'll let me do this. I'm serious." And then they devise a thing where they like, what do? They spray him with perfume or something, or they give Akane sews a patch into his outfit, but it's like some magic bullshit where if he wears it, he smells like fucking diarrhea shit to women. So he's like, ugh, and he like tries to touch women, and they're like, get away from me, even though you think that's how they would react in the first place, and it kind of is, but they, instead of just being like, Kya, get off me, oh, you're so silly, old man, they're like, get away from me, you reek of shit. So eventually, as that episode goes on, he starts to shrivel up and die because he can't touch women without consent. And then Ranma's like, I kind of feel bad for him. And it's like, don't feel bad for this piece of shit. What are you talking about? So then she is like, hey, will you cool it on the touching us thing if we take this off you? And he's like, I'll do anything. And then they take it off him, and then he's like a recurring character for the rest of the season. And he does not cool it down at all. He still just keeps fucking doing it. And, I remember when I was younger, I think the perverted trope is fine, but like when the whole joke is just like he grabs women and like you're supposed to laugh, it's just not really all that funny. I was thinking, I was like, it's interesting because usually when I see this kind of trope, it's from people like Toriyama or Oda or Kishimoto, who are men. But this is from Rumiko Takahashi, who's a lady. So it's interesting to see that, like, oh, okay, so there's like women mangaka that are thinking this is kind of a funny thing to include as well. So there's duality of equality of man in that. But yeah, I don't really have much more else to say, especially because now that it's been 2 months, I'm like, I remember the cool soup episode, and I remember the cool soup episode, and I remember the uncool molestation episode. I remember there's another episode where they have Ranma, like, balancing over the water to fight the granny that cursed her. That was really cool, because she couldn't touch the water. She needed to, like, steal something from the granny to become uncursed. And she's not cursed the whole season, just, like, the first few episodes. Eventually she becomes uncursed, and we see a lot more of male Ranma. But yeah, 9 out of 10. I'm really looking forward to eventually starting this manga, or even if I don't get around to doing that right now, in the next year or so, I'm sure they'll announce season 3, and that'll be a lot of fun to watch, provided it's the same quality of the first 2 seasons, which I'm sure it is, or at least I'm hopeful for, because Inuyasha, the only full thing from this author that I've read, is it was like the first Inuyasha's 700 chapters, so it was like the first 200 chapters are like S tier, chef's kiss, like, oh my god, that's some good shit. And then the next 500 were like A tier, so it was still really, really good, but I'm like, man, there was something about those first 200 chapters that were like really hitting. Yeah. So that was Ranma, 9 out of 10, love it, good stuff. Mwah. Next on the list that I watched also at the end of December was 100 Meters. I saw people posting about this on Twitter like fucking crazy, talking about how it was like the single fucking best movie ever made. And I put on my contrarian belt, my contrarian hat, my contrarian outfit, and I'm like hell it is. I'll decide if it's good or not, you fuckers. So I go to Netflix, I watch it, and that's actually pretty good. But okay, so it's called 100 Meters because it's about 100 meter dash. The movie starts and it's got 2 children. One guy who's like really, really talented at running, and another kid that's like in beat up clothes. He looks homeless, but he's not. It's just like his family's poor, and they like, the one guy that's good at running is like, hey, I think I'm gonna get some details wrong because it's been fucking like 2 months, but it's like the one kid's like, I run all the way home because if I do that, I don't have to think about how fucking dog shit my life is. And it's like, whatever works, man. And the other kid's just like, I'm really good at running. I'm going to get like a scholarship and be like a famous epic runner. And then the kid that's good is like, hey man, I'll teach you how to be a better runner. So they like start doing that for a little bit. And then they're like, hey, let's race. And the kid that's poor like wins the race because he like locks in and like goes extra hard at the cost of like the strain he's putting on his feet and legs. And the kid that's good, like, oh shit man, you won, good job, that's, I gotta keep training, I guess. And then it like slowly continues over these 2 people's lives, where like then we get to high school where the kid that's good is he's kind of plateaued. He's like, I'm not as good as I was when I was younger, like maybe this is as good as I'll be. And then the other guy goes to another school and he's like the best person on that team. And then they race again in high school, and he's like the kid that was poor like wins again, and the main guy's like, well, I'll never beat this guy, I guess, so I just fucking should give up. And then there's like another time skip where they do they race again in college. I wonder. I know. I don't remember fully, but I do know that there's another race at the end where they're adults, like fully. And the worst part about this movie is that every other sentence is kind of like it'll be like normal sentence, dialogue, character, setup, into next scene where it's just like the really, really ham-fisted, contrived dialogue that's like, you gotta lock in. Don't let your dreams be memes. If you wake up every morning, you can be a man. Like, grab yourself by the balls and just do it. And it's like, okay. But, like, if it was, like, once or a few times even, it would be like, okay, it's an inspirational movie. I get it. But it's like, at least like half the dialogue of the fucking movie is shit like that, and you're like, I get it, I know, I heard you the first time, you can fucking follow your dreams. That being said, even though it did start to grade on me, in the second last race, I think there's a guy that's introduced that's like, he's like, I wanted to be like the best racer, but I went up against this guy and he would beat me every single time, and I realized like the reality of the world is I will never beat this guy. Like, he's way better and I suck dick. And then he's like, but you know what? I never stopped training, and I decided to hell with that reality, and this time I'm gonna beat him. So then now it's like the four main guys of like those two guys that I just talked about, and then the two main kids from the beginning are all in a race, and everyone's like, oh, the guy that's gonna, it's poor kid's gonna win, or that like Giga Champion's gonna win. And then there's a moment, I'm gonna spoil the movie, there's a moment where it goes back to that guy and it plays that dialogue again where he's like, to hell with that reality, and then he fucking locks in and he starts to win, and he does win the race, and I was like, let's go, over this fucking racing movie where I'm like, oh my god, he actually fucking did it, he won, this is awesome. You can follow your dreams. And so that's like, even though the dialogue's not very good and annoying, frankly, it's moments like that where like they get you. Like, if like good animation is something that like excites you, which why would you be watching animation if that wasn't something that like weighed on you a little bit? But oh, I should also bring up, I forgot, while I got lost in the sauce of the hype, is that something really fucking cool about this movie is all the different animation techniques on display. So like a lot of the movie is rotoscoped, where I should have looked this up before I did the video, but as far as I know, rotoscoping is when you like, so like let's say they needed to animate someone waving high, they would take me, a real man, going, and then they would just like loop that and draw over it, so it would like look kind of weird because it's like layered over a real person, but it can look really, really good. So a lot of this movie is just like shots, like there's like a shot of a guy doing squats, or like the scenes of them running is like them rotoscoped, and yeah, it was beautiful. I think some people might think it looks weird and fucked up, which it kind of does, but like it looked so cool. My favorite moment of the scene, other than that get hyped scene, was when the main kid that like slowly gets discouraged in his running career. It's manifested on screen visually by like, it'll be a normal sunny day, but then suddenly it's like pouring rain, and it's like not literally pouring rain, it's like it's to represent his emotions of like he feels like shit, so every day feels like a fucking dreary rainy day. And I thought that there's one point in the movie where it like just like keeps getting, like the rain gets heavier and heavier until the screen is like completely like black, you can't even see anything, and it's meant to be like he's at his lowest. The this movie, now that I'm like talking it up, I'm like, this movie was fucking awesome. And to be fair, to give the score, I gave it an 8 because it was a lot of fun. But oh yeah, I realized I think I only watched things that I enjoyed for the most part. So it's not going to be a video where I'm like, I watched some porn and I couldn't jack off to it. Oh, but yeah. So, but where I lost my train of thought saying that, the final scene, spoilers, if you there's like another race, and maybe I shouldn't spoil the very end because it's like a really cool moment. Fuck it. Pause the video and go watch the movie if you want to. But the end of the movie is the poor kid and the main guy racing again, and the poor kid like realizes that, like, let's say he is the best, like, forever. Like, is that gonna make him happy? Maybe it won't though. And then the main guy says, he's like, I was always racing for other people. Like, I wanted a scholarship to impress my family and, like, seem like a cool guy. But, then my running career, like, dried up, and then I just became a normal office worker man. But then I realized what I should be running for myself and for fun and just, like, for having a good time. And even if I'm not the best, I can still go out there and have fun. And then, like, that kind of weighs on the poor kid. And then they go out for one last race, and it shows them, like, neck and neck photo finish style, and then the movie ends, and it's kind of like up to your own interpretation on whether or not did main kid finally win, and, like, once he realized his own, like, insecurities and faults, could he overcome his rival, or did the advice from main kid help poor kid still remain at the top? And, I never really thought, like, when I was watching, like, who actually won. I think, personally, I would want the main guy to win, because that's kind of cliche. It would be cliched, but I think it would be more satisfying than the other guy winning. But their neck and neck, credits pop, and I start smiling. I'm like, those motherfuckers. It's up to interpretation. That's so fucking cool. That's such a good choice instead of just showing me one of them winning. So I get to decide who wins. And like I said, I think main kid winning is better. But yeah, I think if you can get past the dialogue, like making you roll your eyes every 2 fucking seconds, it's a really fun watch. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for 100 meters. Next on the list, we got Wandering Witch: The Journey of Elena. There was a period of time where I kept seeing this show get recommended to me on reddit.ca, where people would be like, you gotta watch Wandering Witch, that's a fucking banger. And I was like, okay. I've been meaning to watch this, so I downloaded it on my iPad. Start to watch it. A few episodes every day. I gave this one a 6 out of 10. This is probably the thing I scored the lowest of the things from January/December, where in episode 1, Elena's like a witch, an up-and-coming witch, but before she can, like, she feels like comfortable enough to pass the fucking Hogwarts exams, she goes and finds down this Giga Witch. She's like, hey, Giga Witch, will you teach me how to be a cool badass Giga Witch like you? And the Giga Witch is like, yeah, totally. Become my indentured slave. So then she makes Elena just, like, do chores for, like, however long. I forget how long it is. And then eventually, until Elena's like, hey, being your slave is fine and all. Not really, but can you teach me some fucking magic, maybe, please? That's what I came here to do. And the Giga Witch is like, I was wondering when you were gonna crack. And it's like, you're a bitch. Just fucking teach her magic. So then Elena's like, what? And then I don't even remember if she actually teaches her magic or if she was like, being my slave was the training and now you're ready to go to Hogwarts. So then she, like, goes and she becomes her own witch. She gets called the Ashen Witch because she has white hair. And then it's called Wandering Witch because you'd think she would be called the Wandering Witch, but she's the Ashen Witch. And it's like every witch has, like, a title like that. Like, I think the Giga Witch she trained under was, like, the Stardust Witch or something like that. And every episode is Elena, the Wandering Witch, the Ashen Witch, going to a new place/country and, like, seeing events unfold, and she, like, writes it down because she was inspired to become a witch because she read a book that, like, is basically the exact same plot as what she's doing, where it's like, I'm a witch and I go places and I write it down. There's, like, 3 episodes that are really good, and then every other episode is, like, fine to boring. So that's hence the 6 out of 10, because it's definitely not bad, but it's definitely not, like, based on the Reddit glazing, I thought it was going to be, like, really, really good, but only some episodes were really, really good. Now, because I was a lazy, depressed fucking loser piece of shit that didn't make the video until right now, I don't remember what the good episodes even are. I remember episode 3, and this is the least good of the good episodes, where she goes to a place and she sees a lady in a flower field and is like, hey, you're going to this nearby village, how about you give these flowers to my brother? That would make me really happy. And Elena's like, yeah, why not? And then she goes there and they're like, hang on a second, all flowers are banned, to get the fuck out of here. And she's like, what? Oh my god. And they take those flowers and they burn them, and the guy's like, wait, you met my sister? I gotta go see her. And then homeboy takes off, and then, like, in the night, Elena's like, hey, what's the deal with the no flowers? And they're like, those flowers are from, like, this bushel, and they're like super poisonous slash like hallucinogenic, and they're from this like plant monster that will like, it could destroy this whole city if we like let you bring those in. And she's like, oh shit, might be. And she's like, hang on. And then she like flies away back to the flower field, and she sees the girl that she met before, and then she sees the guy that like threw the flowers out, burned them up. And she goes down, and he's like, isn't this amazing? It's my sister. And then the reality sets in where it's not his sister. It's a hallucinogenic plant monster that's trying to take over this city. And then Elena's just like, huh. And she sees the guy get taken over by the plant monster, and she sees a bunch of more bodies like get up and start walking towards the city. And she goes, anyways. And then she gets on her broom and she flies away, and the episode ends. And I'm like, Jesus. Because you'd think like maybe any other series, like a more satisfying approach would be like, well, I'm a badass witch, so like I'll kill these plant monsters and like save the city, and I'm a hero. But she's just like, I'm not getting involved, I'm leaving. And that's kind of her prerogative for like every storyline, where like there's another episode where she meets a guy who's like, oh, come kick it with me, my dad, and my slave. And she's like, your slave? And she's like, no, we pay her, like she loves being our servant. And she's like, oh, okay. And they go there, and the dad is like comically evil, like, this lettuce doesn't have enough lettuce. Oh, why you? And then Elena's like, Jesus, man, leave her alone. She's doing her fucking best. And he's like, what'd you say, you bitch? And she's like, I don't want to get involved. Like, leave me out of it. And she's just like, I guess this is the life some people have. Sometimes you're a slave that's abused. And she fucking leaves. It's shit, because I remember that there's 3 good episodes. One was that plant zombie episode. I remember another one, and then I don't remember what the other one. Oh, yes I do. So, the next good episode, I forget which order these come in, but let's say I'll talk about the one where Elena is hired, I guess, like picked up by another witch, and is like, hey, I need your witch abilities we're gonna use time travel magic because my best friend was labeled a murderer, and I want her, and then she was executed. I had to do it myself. So we're going to go back in time, and we're going to save her and make sure that didn't happen. They go back in time, and then it's revealed that the best friend that this witch killed was actually a psycho killer the whole time, and she has to kill her again. Like, they set up that, it's like Dragon Ball Z rules, where even though they go back in time, it won't change where they're from. It'll just, like, butterfly effect and create another reality where her friend wasn't killed by her, and like she gets to live a happy life because she wouldn't be executed. However, they go back, and it's like, oh, she's a psycho killer, so she has to kill her best friend a second time, but this time with the truth that, you know, she's an evil piece of shit. And then I forget what exactly happens. They're wearing rings that like connect their magic abilities, so I think Elena takes the ring off or something, like, and in doing so, that fucks with the memories of the girl that had to kill her friend. And that's, like, one of the more involved, like, Elena ever is, where she's like, I don't want... It's kinder to let this woman completely forget the existence of her friend than to live in a world where she has to bear the grief and the weight of the fact that she killed her best friend twice. And the fact that her best friend wasn't who she thought she was a psycho killer. And I thought it was a really cool, fun episode. And then there's another episode where Elena goes somewhere. There's a completely empty city except for one witch who's like, I lost my memories. And then they like eventually realize that she had to lose her memories to help her like defeat this monster. And then as the episode goes on, the monster is revealed to be her dad, who like killed her husband, and in the grief of the fact that her lover was dead, she used like insano magic to turn her dad, who was like king, into this like big monster, and he eats everyone in the kingdom. And she's like, you fuck with my boyfriend, you're gonna eat all your loyal servants, you fucker. So then she does that, but then she's like, in using such powerful magic, makes her lose her memories, and then she only gets her memories back when she decides to kill what she did to her monster-ified dad. And then like she like kills her dad, and Elena's like, oh, so you remember everything, huh? And she's like, yeah, I do. And then the end of the episode is her like sitting down and having dinner with an empty chair, but she's talking to it like her husband is there. And Elena's like, "Oh, this bitch is crazy. I'm leaving." And the episode's over. And I'm like, so those are the 3 good episodes where kind of like darker things happen. Now let's talk about the worst episode where Elena goes to a village, and there's 2 villages. There's this village and there's that village. And this village thinks they make the best wine, but that village dares to say that they have the best wine. And then that village starts selling wine with a label of a beautiful woman with her dogs out stomping on grapes, and it sells way better than this village's wine. So they're like, "Damn it, Elena, we need you to be our beautiful maiden to put on the label." And then I forget what exactly transpires, but it's a whole episode where it's just like, look at her feet stomping on those grapes. Isn't this awesome? Isn't this sexy? Aren't you jerking off? I was or I wasn't. And I forget the events. I think Elena gets so pissed off that the sexy girl in the other label is like, "This is who you got for your village," that she like does something that like makes the 2 villages be like, maybe we aren't so different after all, and they like unite. And there's a plot line where the sexy lady on that village's wine gets together with this village's chief, and they get married or whatever. That was the worst episode because there's all these cool episodes with dark themes and writing, and this was an episode for me to crank my hog, which, hey, that's pretty cool, but it's not as good as the good writing episodes. So yeah, I gave it a 6 out of 10 because I didn't have a bad time watching it, but when there's like peaks and valleys of like 3 episodes are really good of the 12, and then there's some like the wine stomping episode, or some of the last episodes are just about like the Giga Witch from episode 1 coming back and like hanging out with another powerful witch, and it's just not that interesting. Or in episode 2, Elena meets a up and coming trainee witch who's like super lesbian for her, which was actually, that was pretty cool too, that like they like in a Japanese anime series that like so overtly be like, this character's gay, because they either don't do that, or if they do, it's like a homophobic awful joke. It's like, I think unless you're like actually watching Yaoi or Yuri, you're not gonna find a gay character who's like awesome. Like that's less frequent, I would say, at least in my experience watching anime. Next on the list we got Gachi Akuta. Gachi Akuta is a series, it's a battle shonen, my bread and butter, where I remember I saw screenshots of the manga on Twitter, and I was like, that looks tight as fuck. Gachi Akuta. I start reading it, I get 2 volumes deep when they're like, by the way, we're making an anime. By the time the anime has come out, I've read everything that would be in season 1. I like the manga. Unfortunately, I read it all in one big chunk, and then I've now caught up. So now I only get to read chapters when they're like weekly or monthly or whatever the fuck. And then like in between every chapter, I forget what happens, and I'm like, oh, it was so much better when I could binge it. But I really like this show / manga. The art style is what really captivated me. It's really kind of wacky, I guess you would say. I don't know. It's kind of reminiscent of like if the whole series was like graffiti art, kind of. I saw a big Twitter thread of the author herself on Twitter where she declared that Soul Eater is the single greatest manga of all time, and like it's a big inspiration for her. And you can see that in Soul Eater, the gimmick of the battle shonen is that there's like weapon users and people that transform into the weapons. Gachi Akuta has somewhat of a similar setup where there's people, they have their magic powers, but instead of having other people that turn into weapons, they have like an item they really like. So like if you had like a ring that like your father gave you and you like really cherished that, or something like something like that, it's likely that would transform into your weapon / ability, because not everything is like a weapon. Like there's a character later on whose ability is that he can like create special necklaces, collars that let you like use them as like a radio / a phone. Like no weaponized use of that. It's just like what his ability does. Or there's a girl introduced at the end of season 1 whose ability is that she can take a manhole cover and then like open it up and it turns into like a teleportation portal. But yeah, so that's kind of how it's inspired by Soul Eater. But the plot is that there's this kid named Rudo. He lives on this like floating island. I think it's basically how it is displayed. And there's like a big pit, and they're like, that's the pit we throw fucked up losers in. Like, if you're a fucked up loser criminal murderer, we throw you in the pit. So Rudo, his dad, I'm gonna forget some of the details, which is cool because I've read the manga and watched the anime, so you'd think it would stick in my brain, but it didn't. His dad was like a evil fucked up loser criminal or something like that, so they're like, you're just like him for real. You're a fucked up loser evil criminal. And they treat him like shit, and he is homeless, but he is taken in by a guy called Greedo? Did I make that up? Rudo and Greedo? I think I made that up. His dad, Gringus? No, I don't remember. His dad, I only remember is that his dad was voiced by John Bergenheimer, who voices Tien in Dragon Ball. That's the only detail I can remember about him right now. I forget his name. Fuck. But, his dad's like, even though we're homeless losers, we should, don't beat up the kids that, flame you. Be a good kid. Be whatever. And then one day Rudo comes home. His hobby is, collecting garbage because he's homeless. And he's like, it's not garbage. It's, this meant something to someone, and they just threw it out like it meant nothing. Like my dad threw me out or something, I'm hand-waving it, but it's actually powerful and good writing. And he comes home, and his dad is stabbed up good, and he's like, my fucking dad's dead. And then they're like, you did it. So then they throw him in the pit, and then it's revealed that there's a whole other world underneath the pit, and he's a surface dweller because he's up from the surface. And there, I forget what they called down there, but I'm going to call it Garbage Town because that's basically what it is. They throw all their garbage and shit and whatever down onto that land. So it's like a disgusting, almost irradiated wasteland kind of, where because they're throwing so much garbage and shit down there, the garbage and shit is filled with such hatred that it takes on the form of these gigantic evil monsters called trash beasts. Now, to beat the trash beasts, you need to be a giver. And if you're a giver, you can have the magical powers like I just talked about. Now, the main kid is I want to get back up there, and what's his motivation? He wants to get back up there and clear his name, I think, or find out what happened to his dad. And that's the basic crux of the story, is that he joins the Cleaners, I think they're called, which is the organization that fights against the trash beasts. It's got a bunch of people that have the magic powers. And of course, because he's the main kid, he has a super duper special power where his gloves can take garbage and transform it into magical weapons and shit like that. So one of the first things that he makes is, oh shit, what's the first thing that I don't remember. I know at some point he makes a nail gun. That's cool. I think that's one of the last things he does at the end of the season. In the manga right now, he is wearing a hat with wolf ears. He transformed that hat into a weapon, and it turned him into this awesome fucking werewolf form. But that's not gonna happen until season fucking 4 or 5 in 6 years. So why even bring that up? But then every episode is them going on missions or whatever, and it's slowly more is revealed of oh, your gloves. It makes sense that they have such a special power because they're part of the Watchmen series, and the Watchmen series was made by the first guy that's the mayor of this town called Graffiti Town. Or is that true, or am I making that up? Fuck. I wish I remembered every detail of everything ever. But I think it's something like that, where either the mayor of Graffiti Town, which is this super art town, either he had all the Watchmen series or he just had one of them. I know it's a thing where if you're mayor of Graffiti Town, you paint a mural on the ceiling of something to leave your mark, and his included the Watchmen series. And then as the series goes on, you meet a girl called Amo, who all has boots of the Watchmen series, and then the main villain, Zodal, who has a belt buckle, I forget exactly which it is, I think it's a coat of the Watchmen series. And Zodal shows up and is hey Rudo, why, instead of kicking it with the Cleaners, why don't you be with me? I got one of the Watchmen series, I want to go up to the surface just like you, let's be boys, what do you say? And it's a great shot of the manga that's super hyper stylized, where Zodal is they're not your friends, and that pisses Rudo off. He's you're the one with no friends, you fucking loser. And he flips him off, and it's this super stylized, full body double spread page of Rudo flipping off Zodal, screaming at him you're a shithead, not me. And it looks really great. But of course, because of anime censorship laws, instead of flipping him off, he's he hits him with one of these. He hits him with a thumbs down, and it's like, oh, not nearly as powerful or as epic or as cool. Like, that's actually Rudo. That's a little gay. If I'm being honest, you're a little fucking gay for that. But yeah, so that's by the end. They then, after Rudo does that, they beat up Zodal. Almost called him Zoldyck. That's from Hunter x Hunter. A better series, if I do say so myself. But they can both coexist. I forgot to give my score again. I gave Gachiakuta an 8. I really, really like this. I do think what's to come in season 2, I would give a 9. It's so far my favorite piece. Like, there's the stuff with Amo that's really, really good. That's probably the height of season 1, other than the ending, which is when all the cool shonen fights happen, and that's also cool. But I think the storyline that takes off in season 2 really made me like chef's kiss. Like, yes, that's some good writing. I really like this character. Like, it's a character that's set up as kind of nothing in season 1 that gets a cool storyline in season 2. But I don't know why I'm talking about season 2 because it doesn't exist yet. I think that's coming out. It got announced already. I don't know if it's coming out next year or if it'll be a while. They also announced a game already, which is very, very quick. So that must mean that it's a very popular show, which I think it was because I saw. It's a cool shonen show, so like that's like up there in terms of popularity of genre. So maybe it was always going to be popular. So that's cool. I wish the manga chapters came at a better frequency than they did, because I think it's monthly. Or it'll be weekly for a while, and then it'll just like it's monthly now. Maybe I'm making that up, and I just like don't check the series enough. I don't actually know. Okay, we got 2 shows left. Maybe this will be a full hour-long video. Next on the list, we got Trigun Stampede. Now, Trigun, the original, is a show I watched when I was 15 years old. For reference, right now I'm a 28-year-old grandpa. And when did this come out? Let me click and see. This came out in 2023, so I waited to watch this one. I heard they were doing a remake of Trigun, and I was like, awesome. Trigun was really, really good. I don't know what I gave the original, especially because I didn't start doing like anime tracking bullshit until a year or 2 ago. So that would be me retroactively scoring something I saw a decade ago. Like, this is how I felt back then when I was a kid. Maybe if I rewatched it now, I would feel differently. Most certainly I would. But I really liked the original Trigun. Main guy, Vash the Stampede, he's this, like, they call him the humanoid typhoon, because everywhere he goes, shit hits the fan, and, like, he is a wanted criminal based on this, where, like, everywhere he goes, trouble follows him, and even though he's got a heart of gold, and he says his fucking catchphrase in the original show is, the world is full of peace and love, and you cringe, or you're like, yeah, Vash. He never said that in this version. I realize now that I said it out loud, but he said it in almost like every single fucking episode of the original. But he everywhere he goes, shit goes crazy, and he has to like solve it or get run away, and they're like, get him. This one, I heard it was a remake, but it's also kind of a reinterpretation, reimagining. I don't know. I saw people say that technically Trigun Stampede takes place before the original Trigun, which does make sense, because in Trigun, he's the humanoid typhoon. He's constantly getting chased by this journalist whose name I forget, who is also like low-key in love with him. And like, just the storyline is different. It's also further on. They say this one is earlier, but the original, if I remember correctly, which again, it's been a decade, like, give me some fucking grace here, it's like way more like cyberpunk western-ish, but like the sci-fi elements weren't that crazy in the original that I remember. I might remember that wrong, but this one, it's like full-on like futuristic. By the way, did you know that Vash is and his twin brother, Millions Knives, a W name, are like homunculus alien plant boys that like have magic powers. I lost my train of thought saying that because it's so fucking different than the original. I remember, like, in the original, he like goes and fights Millions Knives, and I think he has to kill him. But they don't, like, in this, Millions Knives can, like, Magneto style control a bunch of fucking metal and knives and shit. And it's like, oh shit. All Vash does is like use a gun good. Vash is kind of like a pacifist, even though he does like fight and shoot guns. But in this it's revealed that, oh, Vash does have kind of like this black hole-esque power, but he can't control it, so... But Millions Knives wants to, like, take Vash and, like, turn him back into, like, a less sentient homunculus thing and, like, kill all humans and rule the earth or something. I'm gonna forget some stuff. It's been a few weeks since I watched this one, but I guess I'll give my score. This one was an 8 also. I'm losing my voice again. So I guess my fucking limit is like an hour to fucking talk before I just start to lose my shit. If I had to describe this series without like going into full detail, because I admittedly can't remember every episode, it's fucking hype and aura. It's so much fun to just watch. Like, it's the first show, not movie, because I've seen movies in CG that are good, that's fully CGI animated that looks fucking good. Long gone are the days of Berserk 2016 where everything looks like a piece of shit. This show looked amazing. And then currently, right now, is Trigun Stargaze probably is what it was called, which is like a sequel to this, so I'm like really excited to start watching that once that's all over. I think it's only like halfway done, maybe, or the dub is halfway done but the sub is over. I'm watching the dub. They got Johnny Young Bosch to come back and reprise his role as Vash. That was really cool. I think he was the only one, because I think in the original Millions Knives was voiced by Joshua Seth, who voices Tai in the original Digimon, who, as far as I know, doesn't do voice acting except if they come in back and be Tai, like in Digimon Tri or Digimon Kizuna. But they didn't get him. Instead, I think it was someone I knew, but right now I can't remember who it is. And there's a character called Nicholas D. Wolfwood, who in the original... Is he voiced by Vic Mignogna? That might be true, or I might be making that up. And then in this version, he's voiced by... I forget the guy's name. It's the guy who voices Todoroki in My Hero. He does a pretty good job. He does a pretty good job in everything, although I feel like I see him in way less shit than, like, other voice actors. But, yeah. 8 out of 10 for that one. A whole lot of fun. If you want to watch an action series, this is probably... Like, this and Gachiagata are the ones to go with, even though I did have more fun with Ranma. But Ranma's way more of a romance slice of life comedy that also has some action. Then we're coming to the end of the video with the last thing that I watched, Spy Family Season 3. It's pretty cool that I've another series where I read the whole manga, and then I saw people on Reddit be like, oh, Spy Family Season 3, that's when we're going to do the Lloyd backstory. And I was like, we got Lloyd's backstory? I don't remember that. That seems really important. Why would I not remember that? And then the first few episodes of Season 3 are Lloyd's backstory. And I'm like, oh, I guess it did happen. But Spy Family's basic premise is there's a guy called Lloyd, or I think that it's a fake name. He is a secret agent, James Bond style, who needs to do a mission, and to accomplish this mission, he needs a kid in school, and to not look suspicious, he needs a wife. So he gets a fake wife called Yor. Yor is an assassin. And then his fake kid, Anya, is a telepath and can hear people's thoughts. None of them know it about each other except for the kid, because she's a telepath. She knows that dad is a spy. She knows that mom is an assassin, but the parents don't know that about each other, and they don't know she's a telepath. The basic crux is, like, more often than not is a comedy series where, like, the joke is that the spy skills or the assassin skills or the telepath skills will, like, come into play, of, like, how they have to, like, of the jokes or how they have to solve issues. This season, I give it a 9 out of 10. I really, really, like, enjoyed this season. I think I gave seasons 1 and 2 a similar score. Spy Family's so fucking good. But it's one of those things where this stuff was my favorite part of the manga when I read it, but I also forgot that they happened, where Lloyd's backstory is so good, but it's only, like, 2 episodes. So I think that's why I forgot. Because if it's only 2 episodes, it's only, like, 4 chapters. So it probably was like, snap, it's done. Out of my brain, because it must have happened in real life years ago at this point. But it was the Lloyd's backstory, and then at some point, it says it's 13 episodes. I don't remember everything that happens, except the Lloyd backstory, and then at some point there's a point where all the kids from the school, the main girl, their school bus for a field trip gets jacked, and they are, like, held hostage, and then you gotta be like, how are the kids gonna, like, get out of this one? I remember that happened. I didn't remember all the details, but one of the really cool things about the writing of this show is that because there's a lot of kid characters, and they are allowed to be kids, so the kids are like, how are we gonna stop this bus jacking? And then the kid's like, can I get off to go to the bathroom? Like, that's probably what a kid would think of. Or like, oh, I'm so hungry. Please stop jacking this bus and get us some fucking food, please. And you're like, yeah, kids aren't very smart, so they wouldn't have, like, a lot of resources in their brain to, like, help them get out of this one. So it's cool to see them utilize. They're like, I'll try to use this trick. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, what about this one? That didn't work. I'm out of options. We have to just hope the adults solve this one. But yeah, Spy Family's so fun. It's, oh my god, there's a fucking bug. Oh Jesus, that fucking jump scared me. My favorite part of the video is when this pussy got scared by a bug. Whatever. That really made my brain fart, and now I don't remember what I was talking about. I was talking about Spy Family. Yeah, 9 out of 10. I think Spy Family is one of, like, the best current ongoing manga and shows, although I think I like the shows more than I like the manga, or at least I liked the manga more when I've been... But this is true of fucking anything. I like when I can read something in bulk, or all at once if it's done, and then if it's not done and I get caught up and I have to watch or read it weekly, that bums me out. And, yeah, well, that's the end of the video. That bug really fucked me up, apparently. Thank you for watching. I hope you come back in 2 weeks when I hopefully get my February video out on time. I've watched 2 things in February. Both were pretty good, so maybe I should seek out some shit to watch so that you can laugh at me being like, porn is bad, even though I actually secretly liked it. Whatever. Thank you for watching. Please join me in the next one. Like, comment, and subscribe, whatever. Goodbye.